Aquatic mods in Planet Zoo are some of the coolest ones out there. Not only do they bring new species to the game, but they bring new types of species to the game, whether that's sea turtles, whether that's fish, dolphins, cetaceans, a whole wide variety of different animals that can really bring your zoo to a new level. However, I've been seeing so many people asking for a tutorial on how to actually get these mods to work in-game, not just on how to install them. While I do have a tutorial for that, it's on my channel in case if you guys want to watch that, and I'll have a relatively newer one coming up soon in terms of like some later mod changes. But for the time being, that one still works in case if you guys want to watch that. However, if you guys installed these mods, you might be wondering why these animals are just staying in one place, especially if you think you have enough water in here where you think they might want to go swim, but it doesn't look like they do. Today we're going to go over what makes these animals work in-game, and kind of talk about how to actually use in-game animals as a way to judge whether or not your habitat is suitable for these aquatic animals. So welcome everyone, my name is Leaf. It's so great for you guys to join me today as we go over how to build for fully aquatic animals in Planet Zoo. Now, in terms of Planet Zoo modded species, you have to keep in mind that each animal is based off of a current existing animal. So while we have some animals over here we can actually check out and see which ones are related to which ones. Now, if you look at my screen right now, hopefully Leaf remembers to put it on here. I'll kind of like do that to make sure he remembers. You can see that each animal page has a little section down below called the description. This is usually where you'll find most of your answers, or rather, most of your questions answered. And in particular, it pertains to types of enrichment that an animal would need to use, what kind of navigation systems the animal uses, etc., etc. So if you look at the leatherback sea turtle page, you'll notice that his counterpart is the gray seal. That means he uses his rig. That means he uses his enrichment, his animations, all that stuff. And while we don't exactly have the perfect kind of perfect rig for a sea turtle, this one still works very good in the water. You might notice that almost every single fish is based off of the Cuvier's dwarf caiman. That's just because the tail and the whole body kind of has that perfect motion that you would expect out of a fish. Moving on from there, we also have the hippopotamus. These guys are kind of exploring their habitat because they are, where'd this one go? Where'd the other guy go? There he is. He's lying down. But these guys do walk along the bottom of the water, which is a very unique trait to the hippo. And you'll notice that we do have our stingrays, the kind of like ground-dwelling ones, based off of the hippopotamus. So that's something to keep in mind right there. Very unique challenges to building for these guys, specifically the stingrays. We'll go over that in just a little bit. And last but not least, our dolphins will be using giant otter rigs. It's the perfect rig for them. Well, as perfect can be, because their tail moves a lot more like you would expect a cetacean to move. Same thing goes for the whales as well. All the sharks as well are based off the Cuvier's dwarf caiman, which is something to keep in mind. Now you might notice, if we do add the water up here, all the way up to top level, you'll notice every single one of these animals will want to go in the water except for the hippo. This is usually how to make these animals go in the water. You need to make sure that the water is level for the animals to actually encounter, and make sure that there's just a slight drop off right over here in order to get these guys to walk in the water. And then you can see that they are perfectly swimming in here, except for this guy who's kind of running on top of the water. But hey, that's a Planet Zoo animal, not a modded animal, so I can't really be at fault for that one. So if we do add water in here, these guys have their code specifically made so that if there is water in a habitat, they will instantly go to it, find a point to dive in it, and then they'll just stay diving until they need to come out of the water to give birth, or for something else if they need to be transferred out of the water. You'll see that the dolphin is going right for this point in the water, and then once it actually does, it will start to swim, which is very cool to see. We still need to work on some offset values. That's a new thing that came in the latest 2 updates, wherein swim offsets are actually able to be manipulated as a way to kind of get an animal to float along the surface properly. So that's something we need to keep in mind. Once this koi fish actually recognizes the water, you'll see that they'll actually be able to swim. But you can see that the gray seal-based leatherback sea turtle, try saying that 5 times fast, goes right in the water because of that little slope that we have right there. You can see that the koi fish, again, unfortunately has that swim offset value, but once the water is deep enough, it should be able to swim. Now, please keep in mind that this stuff is all in the Zoopedia. You should be able to go to natural habitat, and you could see that their requirements over here are exactly what they should be. But if we pop over here, because typically I like to code my fish to the point where they don't require much, because it's very difficult to build for them in like challenge mode and stuff. However, if you pop over here, you could see that the dwarf caiman has all this stuff in here. Typically, they go hand in hand. There really isn't much of a change in between these guys, but the caiman-based mods, which are kind of like the fish, only require 2 meters of deep diving area. The gray seals and the giant otters typically require 4 meters. So if you just take like a 4-meter piece out, set it to align to water, and put it down here, you could see that they need at least this much room to swim. Now you guys might be saying, but Leaf, why isn't that stingray diving right there? Well, because they are a hippo-based mod, they will need to find a way to kind of trot their way down here. So if you eventually kind of gradually bring these guys right down here, you can see the hippos already starting to explore that habitat, and that's great. So if you click on the hippo itself and you go to heat maps and then habitat, you can see that they can walk all the way down there. Now, because of this, if we add the water again, we could see that the hippo should be able to find their way down in the water eventually. And yep, you could see them kind of doing that right now. It's a very interesting animation that they have over here. It would be very cool to see us bring this to different rigs. Maybe we could find one that better suits the kind of like rays and stuff like that. But it's just something to keep in mind when we are working with animals like this, but it's still very cool to see them be able to pop down there, which is very awesome. So if we do the same over here, and we actually check out what these animals will do, you can see that all the other ones can just go right for the water. And I'm trying to find out where that ray is. Where is he? And yeah, I guess he's right down here. So you can see that they do instantly go kind of like into the water, which is very cool. Unfortunately, they don't really have like those perfect flat flaps that you typically see rays do. But it's still very cool just to get a little bit of a dynamic tank with how they kind of trot along the water. This is also the base for different mods like the horseshoe crab and other kinds of ground-dwelling rays, so it's very cool to set up habitats for them like that. But that is really it, my friends. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope this was able to help you guys as a way to kind of start to build for aquatic animals in Planet Zoo. I know typically people are starting to get a little bit more accustomed with mods as we start to enter like the last days of support for Planet Zoo, or at least once we start to get like, you know, relatively boringer animals. Not that I'm saying like the sand cat's kind of boring, but still, you guys know what I mean. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a little bit of a like if it did help you out, or even a subscribe, as I do put out kind of content like this relatively often. Have a great day, guys. Can't wait to see you in the next video, and take care. Bye bye now.